The time has come to face our past. Resident Evil 9, RE9UIEM has been officially announced, and what better timing than leading up to Resident Evil's 30th anniversary. At this year's Summer Game Fest, we finally got to see Capcom's next main series game in my favorite franchise. I also went to Summer Game Fest and saw even more of what was shown on the SGF stage. I'm really excited to tell you all about my findings in the game's phenomenal trailer, and explain in too much detail what I saw behind closed doors. So what do you say? Let's get into it. Our trailer begins at the FBI's headquarters, of all places, an organization that has previously existed and was mentioned before in Resident Evil supplemental material, as well as the fax that is sent to Chris, found by Claire in the original RE2. We see an all-new character, FBI Special Agent Nathan Dempsey, snapping a younger agent out of her work trance.
Grace Ashcroft.
Yes?
As an Outbreak superfan since the day it was released, I can't tell you how high I jumped out of my seat hearing the name Ashcroft in a brand new Resident Evil game. As Grace leaves her desk, we see it absolutely covered in documents, folders, and boxes filled with reports. Grace happens to be an FBI analyst, and if you're unaware, this role in the agency tends to stay in the office. Analysts will oftentimes work on multiple cases, in the hopes of finding trends and links between them. Before she was snapped out of her trance, she was working hard on a particular report. On her computer screen, we get to see that a development is being made, a pending investigation into 4 deaths where each victim was suspiciously infected with an unknown disease. I don't know about you, but that sounds an awful lot like the incidents around the Arklay Forest back in Raccoon City. In Dempsey's office, we very quickly learn that Grace here is the daughter of the one and only Alyssa Ashcroft from the Outbreak subseries. Worse yet, we learn that this girl's mother apparently died 8 years prior to this story. Dempsey orders Grace to check out the RE9UIEM Hotel, the place where Alyssa apparently met her end. Sending an analyst out on field work isn't completely uncommon, but it is peculiar, especially for what follows. Upon first viewing, I was so blown away at this familial connection that I didn't fully process that they were telling me that Alyssa died. I have thoughts about this that I'll explore a little bit later, but for now, oh my god, RE Engine Alyssa Ashcroft. There she is, and she looks great. We actually get to see a good bit of her, and in some shots she appears younger, as if we're seeing her original Outbreak incarnation. I should probably explain who Alyssa Ashcroft is for those who've never played the Outbreak games. Alyssa was a reporter working for Raccoon City's Comet News back in '98. She was cool, sassy, capable, and had one hell of a dodge. Her iframes were absolutely on fire. Alyssa shares connections with a few other Resident Evil characters, notably Ben Bertolucci from RE2. She actually gets him his confiscated documents that he shares with Leon at the end of his story. The character January Van Sant from Resident Evil Resistance is commissioned by Alyssa to gather info on a possible link between Umbrella and the US government before she herself was captured by said corporation. I love Alyssa's character and always used to say she was like if Jill Valentine and Aya Brea had a baby. Her bio literally says she's a master of unlocking things, so you know she's a prime candidate to survive some horror. To make a long story short, she's one of the best characters to play as an Outbreak for her well-rounded skill set and no-nonsense, very fun personality. Alyssa is obviously older in these quick cuts, and that makes sense since I imagine these flashbacks are from Grace's POV at some point in her life. If we do the math and look at RE's various timelines, Alyssa would have to escape Raccoon City, then give birth to Grace for her current day, younger appearance to make the most sense. Grace also has flashbacks to a strange hooded man that we see a few times throughout the trailer. This man looks conscious but infected. I have a harebrained conspiracy theory about this guy that I'll get into later. For now, it seems like this hooded man may be responsible for Alyssa's death at this mysterious hotel. Dempsey remarks that it might be time for Grace to face her past, as we see some more of the decrepit hotel flash before her eyes. We then smash cut to Grace in a dire situation. She's tied to a hospital bed, suspended upside down. Since I went to Summer Game Fest, I actually got to see this entire scene play out, and I'll talk about that a little bit later, so hold on tight. Examining a press screenshot sent out by Capcom, Grace is locked up in the Rhodes Hill Chronic Care Center, this being a never-before-seen location in Resident Evil. At first, I thought this hospital was going to be the same place in the flashback scenario of Outbreak File 2, given Alyssa's presence in this game. But then I remembered that building crumbles to the ground at the end of that level, so yeah. Next, we get a few interesting shots of what look like an old Gothic building that appears to be this very care center. We hear what I think is Alyssa telling Grace to stay close and that they're coming, likely referring to zombies or other horrors. There's also a shot of an overcast city street that I want to believe is Raccoon City, but more likely another place that Grace is investigating, since it doesn't have that sort of flashback filter over the footage. Inside of a Gothic building, likely the RE9UIEM Hotel, we see a man facing away from us in a chair. An old phonograph sits on his right with a drape-covered window on his left. This interior and its atmosphere look and feel very next-gen, very ominous. His dialogue is most interesting, hearing him call Grace the special one that he's been looking for.
I know now that you're the one that I've been searching for. The special one. The chosen one. Miss Ashcroft.
If we zoom in on this particular close-up, we can see that the man's skin is rather decomposed and pale. I do believe that this is the mysterious hooded figure from earlier. I think this guy is going to be the main villain, but more on him in a second. The next shot is the money shot, as we see the bombed-out ruins of Raccoon City. A massive crater lay beside a collection of surprisingly intact buildings. This city, once the site of bustling commerce and life, turned zombie apocalypse, now clings to its undead existence, refusing to die. We get detailed shots around the city's ruins, as we finally see it, the ruins of the RPD. A building I and many of you know very well. This place is like a home away from home for a lot of RE fans, so seeing it in this state left me feeling kind of somber. I know some of you probably thought about this too. The only other time we ever got to see a post-apocalyptic RPD was actually in arguably the worst Resident Evil title ever made, Umbrella Corps. Though in that game, it wasn't as destroyed as it is here. There's a game idea that Capcom has seemingly always wanted to do, where the star characters of the franchise return to the ruins of Raccoon City and the Spencer Mansion. This idea, often referred to as Biohazard Dash, was planned after the release of the first game, but quickly shelved. I guess Capcom's finally doing it, and it's pretty cool to see. I personally hope we also get to explore the Arklay Mountains and everyone's favorite haunted mansion. The dialogue over these shots especially caught my attention, so I want you guys to stick with me no matter how silly or fanfiction-y this might sound. The first line we hear is,
"Investigating all these strange deaths, huh?"
I think that this voice belongs to Kevin Ryman from Outbreak. Outbreak fans, tell me that does not sound exactly like him. With us getting a literal Outbreak-era flashback of Alyssa, the chances we'll see other Outbreak characters isn't exactly the lowest, you know? After that, we hear more of what I assume to be Alyssa, and then we hear another voice. Again, stick with me on this. I think that voice is Mark from Outbreak. I believe that we will get quick flashes to the events of that game. RE4R has Leon remembering Raccoon City, so who's to say when Grace isn't a child, her no-nonsense mom might open up to her about the moment that shaped her life forever. She literally survived Raccoon City. That's no easy feat, and it would undeniably stay with you, as we've seen with every other main character. To finish things off, we get a few shocking shots to end the trailer. We see a man struggling to warn someone to stay away as he mutates in real time, his throat deteriorating right in front of us. We see the hooded man suffocating what looks to be a politician sort. This particular moment might be related to the report found on Grace's computer. And we flash to a police officer zombifying before our eyes. I don't know about you guys, but this dude looks like he's been plucked straight out of the 90s. Finally, we see a massive, dark creature descending out of the ceiling of the Rhodes Hill Care Center. Boy, do I have a theory for you on what I think this is. Let's just say those audible chains rattling may not just be a creepy sound effect. The logo drop is accompanied by the monster screaming in our faces. RE9UIEM. Sheesh, what an incredible way to return us to the world of survival horror. So before I move on to the SGF secret gameplay I experienced, I want to tell you guys my crazy theory about what I think the villain's goal might be, and explain what Grace's role in the story may potentially entail. So if you're a hardcore Outbreak fan, you'll know that by default, each of the characters you play as are actually infected with the T-virus. In basic gameplay, this virus gauge counts up to full infection. If you lose track of this thing, you may become a zombie. Spoilers for the first Outbreak, but in the final level of the game, you can actually make a cure for your T-virus infection, that being the Daylight vaccine. Taking it removes the virus gauge completely. RE9 is telling us that Alyssa Ashcroft is the canon survivor of that game, so it would make sense if, after the events of Outbreak, her child would most likely be immune to any zombie viruses, given she's born with the Daylight vaccine's agents in her bloodstream. This is kind of a sneak preview into what I saw at SGF, but in that scene where Grace is hanging upside down, she's actually being drained of her blood. You can even briefly see the glass IV hanging next to her. I think whatever infection this hooded zombie man seems to have has bonded with him completely. I believe whoever this guy is, he's going to be the final link to old school Umbrella. I don't think he's going to be a revived Wesker or Birkin. Resident Evil loves doing Villain of the Week nowadays, so it's safe to assume that whoever he is, he's gonna be entirely new. It seems like he's taking out his aggression on key political figures to send a message to the FBI, possibly to lure out and steal Grace's blood for himself. Grace, being the special person he's looking for, might be able to cure him. With Alyssa allegedly passing away, this guy can't abduct her and use her blood, but that also may be the reason why Alyssa is gone. Maybe this dude killed her while experimenting on her, or maybe her immune blood has aged and lost its potency, leading him to need a newer, younger candidate with the same immunity. I don't want to believe that Alyssa is dead, considering we haven't seen her for over 20 years, but it could be good motivation for Grace to want to catch this guy. Does that all sound crazy, or maybe too spot on? I was putting all of this together while watching the game play out in front of me. I'm really excited to see how all of this plays out and to see if Alyssa really did die 8 years back. Knowing RE, the writers are historically pretty generous to our favorite characters. As we know, fake outs are always possible, especially for masters of unlocking. So with all that said, I went to Summer Game Fest and got to see a decently sized portion of RE9's gameplay, and what I saw blew my mind. So the demo begins with Grace hanging upside down, getting her blood drained in an almost Saw movie style contraption. Grace, being an FBI analyst, uses her smarts to escape the device. She knocks over the glass IV next to the bed filled with her own blood, drags the broken bottle up to her hand, and is able to cut herself free as the gameplay begins. Now, listen carefully. Our starting perspective is first-person view. Please wait before you start complaining, okay? The game does feel a lot like RE7, with the hospital Grace is trapped in being this dingy, old American Gothic building. The halls of Rhodes Hill are almost pitch black, and to my surprise, Grace actually uses a Zippo lighter to light her way forward, just like Claire in Code Veronica. The goal in this demo is to find a fuse to open a gate to safety. As you'd expect, a classic Resident Evil key hunt commences. As we go, we find a themed key, the Cherub key, which opens a specific door that leads us to a file that explains where we can find a screwdriver that opens up a fuse box. As we approach the nurse's wing, Grace is caught off guard by a dead body toppling onto her, knocking her to the floor. Before she can catch her breath and lift the carcass, a massive creature creeps up behind her. Its gigantic hand scoops up the dead body, biting its head off cleanly. This initiates a classic Nemesis-style chase sequence. When I tell you that this chained thing is tall, I mean it's like 20 feet tall. Its body fills the rooms and door frames it's squeezed into. We get to see this monster very briefly in the reveal trailer, but that shot of it coming out of the ceiling does not do its size justice. The incredibly dark atmosphere of this place is heightened by the massive roaring nightmare right behind us. We even get to see Grace trip all over herself during this specific chase scene, which makes the first-person view option feel even more nightmarish. With Grace, Capcom have made their most non-combative RE protagonist yet. I feel like when playing as her, we'll really have to use our our brains to solve the game's conflicts. The way this monster chases Grace isn't fixed or linear either. She's climbing up into the ceiling, going through walls and windows, and also dropping in when you least expect it. Watching the gameplay reminded me of running from the xenomorph from Alien Isolation. I think RE9 will feature the best and most replayable chase scenes in the series to date. As Grace finds her way out of the maze of dark halls, she escapes the dark wing of the hospital, ending the demo. But the mic drop moment that made me react like this
Let's go, baby!
was after the chase was done, the game paused itself, the settings menu opened, and the player chose to switch the game to third-person view. That's right, both perspectives are fully playable in RE9. The third-person view looks exactly like RE4R's wider camera perspective. This is not going to be a jankier RE Village third-person mode like we got with Gold Edition. Capcom have clearly been developing this game with both perspectives in mind, and that's probably why it's been taking so long to show it. I am so excited to replay the game both ways. This option put a smile on my face because I know a lot of fans genuinely don't like first-person view, and that's very understandable with this being a historically third-person game franchise. Well, now you could play however you want. Before I move on to my own unofficial speculations for what the rest of the gameplay might be, I have another theory about what or even who this giant monster is. I got to see this creature in all of its glory, standing on her hind legs, swiping away at Grace and even picking Grace up and chomping down on her shoulder. By the way, that attack looked exactly like the classical painting Saturn devouring his son, I kid you not. All of this was accompanied by the monster wailing away with some very familiar noises. RE1 Remake is my favorite game of all time. I've played thousands of hours of that title. I got it at release. Every single thing about that game is burned into my memory. When I tell you I was perplexed, excited, and utterly terrified at hearing this chained-up monster make the exact same noises as Remake 1's Lisa Trevor, I was stunned. You can even hear this RE9 monster in the SGF reaction room that I was in. Take a listen for yourself. If we're returning to Raccoon City, I think it's very possible that the one unkillable monster that may have been trapped in these ruins, surviving and evolving for the past 30 years, could be Lisa Trevor. A much angrier and much larger Lisa Trevor, I'll add. At no point was her name ever spoken, but I know what I heard, and I know what I saw definitely lined up with what I know about this series. If this isn't Lisa, well, damn, I guess Capcom are just masters of reusing their own assets. Okay. Moving on. Official footage and my own crazy theories aside, I do have my very own speculations on how the rest of the game is going to play out, so let's talk about that. Like the Ethan Winters games, I do believe a legacy character will show up, and we will switch to playing as them for a more action-orientated gameplay experience. RE has always had strong action gameplay roots, even in its original trilogy. It's a guaranteed selling point for the series, and I fully believe while the survival horror elements will be upgraded as I saw in the demo, I'm sure the action elements will also get a similar upgrade. Whether that character be a returning hero like Jill, Leon, or Chris is kind of up in the air, seeing as how each of those people all spent time and have history in Raccoon City. Something that Jeff said on the SGF stage has stuck out in my mind. He talked about the game being something ambitious, the scale being a lot bigger than previous games. Judging by the gameplay I experienced, I don't think we'll be getting like a full open world like a lot of other games, but I feel like RE9's game world is going to be a larger open map with classic puzzle-filled backtrackable hub zones. The fact that the trailer showed us so much of Raccoon City in great detail, like specific locations, makes me think we'll be able to fully explore this ruined city. I immediately thought of Days Gone, mostly because it's a zombie exploration game and I happen to like it a lot, but also because with a potentially open area map, you'd need some kind of vehicle to get around. This might purely be my fan fiction brain talking here, but I really want to see Grace ride around this dilapidated town on a motorcycle. Grace is a quirky nerd in general, as we've seen, but I love the idea that she may have this one unabashedly badass quality to her. And that could possibly be bike riding. Like, wouldn't it be so cool outrunning zombies or maybe even that giant hospital monster while getting to your next location in the ruined city? Another reason which makes me think this is because she's literally wearing motorcycle boots in the trailer. But a girl can dream, can I? Also, in the behind closed doors demo, I really got the sense that Grace isn't a quitter, if you know what I mean. She definitely isn't a fighter, but she is mentally equipped with the skills to persevere. So maybe that means she has a badass, post-apocalyptic motorcycle, I don't know. In essence, those are my thoughts on RE9 so far. They showed so much, yet so little. I'm sure whatever else they're planning is gonna be great as well. I do think this will be the most epic RE game in terms of scale. One thing that kind of bothers me about new Resident Evil games is the series' shaky commitment to new and old characters. Sometimes it could seem like the games rely on having you pop off and get excited at seeing Leon or Chris again, and sometimes we get a dry guy like RE7's Ethan. What's got me so excited about RE9 is, while we are getting a brand new character in Grace, she is the offspring of a legacy character. A rather obscure one at that. It's a refreshing concept that's got me so excited to see what Alyssa Ashcroft's been up to all these years later. Who would have imagined that lonely RE7 news article written by Miss Ashcroft would have led us to this very moment? Capcom, you are Galaxy Brain for doing this, so thank you for bringing back my favorite Outbreak character, and putting Outbreak in the spotlight. If another trailer drops with even more info, you know I'll be on it. If Leon or Jill come power sliding in to save Grace from Lisa Trevor 2.0, I might have to call Capcom and ask if they're stealing my fanfiction. Well, I guess I have to make an Outbreak retrospective now, huh? Until next time, hunters, stay tuned.